Perfect. Cool. So I don't know if you wanted to meet the students that are in here and I can kind of take my laptop around and you could see them.
Sure, sure. That would be great.
Okay. So actually, why don't you guys just each come up here and say hi? Because it'll be easier.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Kimmy.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Maddie.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Cassidy.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Catherine.
Good morning, I'm Venda.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Andrea.
Hello.
And that's the whole gang for today. Normally we have about 8 or 9 more 10th graders here, but they're all gone. So
I gotcha. I gotcha.
So, well, sweet. So I kind of introduced you to the class a little bit, but if you maybe wanted to share a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then whatever you wanted to share with us, that'd be awesome. We're excited.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Are you okay if I share my screen?
Of course.
Will that work? All right. Let's make sure I'm getting the right one on here. All right. Are you seeing my intro screen?
Yep.
Great. Great. All right. Well, everyone, I'm Bobby Newton. I'm here to kind of give you a different point of view when it comes to dog stuff. I'm here to talk about my experience in the dog world, canine breeding, and some of the current misinformation that's out there about acquiring a dog through breeder channels versus rescue. Yeah, a few of my credentials. I've owned a decent amount of dogs over the years. I've worked with Rag'em, Retrieve a Golden of Minnesota, to get 3 golden retrievers in various states of physical and mental need. We had some problem children that we worked through, a lot of issues, older dogs, younger dogs, a little bit of everything. I currently own 2 Hungarian Vizslas, and I acquired these dogs as puppies through a responsible breeder who I really respect and trust and keep in close contact with. I've been a member of the Key City Kennel Club for nearly 18 years. I've held multiple board positions and worked through a lot of club functions, a lot of big shows, and taught classes and assisted classes in the obedience training program for a lot of years. I'm a member of the Twin Cities Vizsla Club and a sitting committee member for the yearly hunt test. I'm pretty involved in that one now, especially with the Vizslas that I have. I started training dogs quite a while ago. Not as a kid. I know there's a lot of 4-H programs now that do dog training, which is amazing. It wasn't available when I was a kid, but for about 20 years now, I've trained and shown in obedience, agility, rally, conformation, and hunt. And I was a therapy dog partner with my dog, my golden retriever Kelsey, for about 5 years. So I feel like in that time there's been a lot of learning, a lot of experience with different dogs and what they need. So I'm going to go through just a few of my experiences. My first golden retriever, Faith, was extremely neglected. She was a 6-year-old female, rescued from a really, really bad situation with mid-range heartworm. She went through treatment. She definitely gave me a lesson in wanting to save them all, wanting to rescue all of the dogs that were in bad situations. My next dog, Kelsey, he's in this slide. He was my first dog that I trained in obedience. He loved to work. He was one of those dogs that he really wanted to find a job. So I really learned how to find a dog a job and look into what they were bred for and what they should do and what would be best to keep them going. And we did overcome some issues with him. He's also the first dog that made me rethink what's necessary when it comes to veterinary care and the things that need to be done to dogs at an early age. He was neutered at a very early age, and as a result, or what the vets think was a fairly direct result. He had hip dysplasia nearly his entire life that we worked through, and he was still able to be a performance dog. But it taught me to think about neutering at a young age a little bit more closely. Sammy, she's the lighter golden retriever in this picture. She was my first real challenge. She was headstrong and learned from a young age, from a bad situation, how to control her situation, how to figure out how to get attention, essentially. And that was mostly because of bad breeder placement. She was placed with a young family very early on, and that family didn't keep in contact with the breeder. And she really had a lot of struggles, and evidently then got released to a rescue. My next two dogs, my current two, which you may be able to hear snoring in the background, are two Vizslas. They're Ginger and Tonic. And I got these two as puppies from a breeder that was suggested by a friend that I looked into. She's really responsible and knowledgeable. Both of these dogs were intended to be performance dogs from the start. And I committed early on to understanding their traits and training them in their breed strengths, which one of which is definitely hunting. They're a wonderful pointing dog, a very versatile hunting breed. I think through them, my biggest lessons learned have been the value of a reliable breeder, and also learning not to be offended by a breeder who asks all the questions they should, who really wants to know if you want that breed and if you're ready for the challenges and the great things that each breed can bring. I, again, learned to question and discuss veterinary suggestions to try to ensure the most healthy start for these dogs. Things like early neutering, again, like I discussed with Kelsey, and deciding when to fix them were big questions that I've gone through a lot with my vet. I think with these two, I've become much more knowledgeable in the reasoning and the theory behind breeding dogs. I've also learned a lot about the beauty of working with a dog in the field and seeing them do exactly what they've been bred to do for centuries. I'm not sure I had quite a full understanding of that until owning a fully purebred dog that pulls back those lineage traits for hundreds of years. I kind of wanted to talk about the importance of responsible and knowledgeable dog breeding. In all the classes that I've assisted, taken, or trained, we ask the question, what was your dog bred to do? And a lot of times you get the look like, oh, well, they're a dog. They just hang around. There are a lot of important issues that happen when a person doesn't understand the traits of their dog breed. And a lot of things about getting a well-bred dog from a responsible breeder that can help this dog succeed in a family, that can help it succeed throughout its whole life so that it doesn't end up in a rescue situation. This slide shows just a few things that are looked at in a conformation type of setting. And I originally thought conformation, oh, it's fancy dancy, everybody's showing off their dogs and dressing up. There really is a lot of background knowledge that comes to play in this that I never realized. I mean, you look at some of the issues that are shown on this slide between shape of nostrils, the bone length angles, hocks of dogs, the stride length, things that are looked at in a ring that I never really thought were terribly important, that were more show-offy. They are really important as a knowledge base for breeders to make sure that their dogs that they're selling to families, that they're putting out into the public, aren't going to come back to them, aren't going to end up in rescue, and aren't going to need considerable vet attention in the future. Let's see. I think a big question that I wanted to look at, or a big popular myth right now is like genetic makeup versus breeding for popular traits. I know a lot of breeds out there right now are like Labradoodles that are created to fill a need. It's a tough one. That's a tough question. In about 10 seconds of internet research, I could probably send you a list of 20 proven breeds that are good for allergy sufferers, or potentially 10 breeders of poodle crosses with questionable lineage that may or may not be hypoallergenic, but almost certainly have the potential for structural, behavioral, or deep set genetic issues because of poor breeding practices. This is a kind of a heated topic. A lot of people are really at arms about this right now. But in short, there are a lot of opinions out there that the public is being sold on badly bred dogs because of marketing gimmicks, because people promise a single desirable trait while overlooking the rest of the traits that should be really important. I know this might not be the most flattering comparison, but I'm guessing everybody's families here own cars. And I'm wondering how many of you personally think that if something went wrong with that car, you could go out and fix it without any research, without any tools, without any help. To me, that's what irresponsible breeding is like. Thinking that you can do something as important as creating a family member for someone else without the right skills, the right research or experience to do it successfully. If you choose a career in any type of veterinary medicine, you will most likely be running up against problems like these quite often. So it's something to give some thought to. I guess after all that speech, I'd like to bring up another side of responsible breeding. I'm not trying to say that all breeders I know have gorgeous litters of sparkly, perfect puppies that never have issues. That's not the case at all. No matter how much care you take in breeding, it's still a bit of a gamble in a lot of ways. I think the biggest thing I've learned in my experience with working with knowledgeable, responsible breeders is that they have the experience to help if things don't go right. The breeders I know have contracts, pretty big contracts that state dogs bred by them will be returned to them if anything goes wrong. They don't want their puppies filling up Humane Society sites or getting passed off to someone who doesn't understand what they're getting into. I think if we look at the numbers of shelter dogs right now, it's pretty staggering. We have a fundamental problem in how we're dealing with dogs. Another example that I've heard is a TV analogy. And I know a lot of people say, I don't really want to go with a breeder. It's really expensive. They're so picky. It's hard to find one. If you were to research a really fancy TV and go to a store and buy it for $2,000 and it broke or something went wrong in the first 2 months you had it, I'm guessing you would most likely go back to the store and ask for help, inquire about the warranty, or want to return it. If you had bought that same TV without the research and just grabbed something off of Craigslist for $20, that TV would probably be going out on the curb. The same type of theory can be brought to acquiring dogs. If you have to go through more work, if you have to really research what you want in a dog and what they bring to your family, and you may have to go through some hoops and fence in your backyard per a breeder's recommendation or pay some extra money, you're going to feel more responsible for that dog and stick with it a little longer. So we're having a terrible cyclical effect when it comes to shelters because dogs are coming into families without a lot of background knowledge, without a lot of help, and without a lot of backup that people like my breeder have given to me. My second Vizsla tonic, my younger Vizsla, has recently gone through some allergy issues, and they've been a little bit challenging. Things haven't been perfect, but knowing that she's there to help me through that. She has the knowledge base of his lineage and a lot of breed recommendations. She can help me through that versus having a dog of kind of mixed parentage, not knowing what breed is really taking the forefront, and just going with it. It makes it a harder job for a family with a dog with troubles. Yeah, I think when in doubt, if someone does want to really rescue a dog, breed rescues are such a good option because they are primarily managed by traceable individual dog clubs and responsible breeders and owners that have previous knowledge of the breed and the skills to assess the dog's needs for a new home so that rehoming can be successful. And they're always available for consult if problems arise in the future. So hopefully further rehoming can be avoided. They also provide mainly foster care instead of a shelter setting that can be really traumatic for pets. I also wanted to bring up something that's a little bit of an issue, especially through COVID, this pandemic, all of the added adoptions that are happening. There have been a lot of internet adoptions that are really easy to get through, and they can be fronts for really irresponsible backyard breeders or even puppy mills. So it's easy for anyone online to claim that they're a shelter, that they're a rescue. Unfortunately, animal welfare organizations are not regulated by the US federal government. The USDA also does not have a part in their normal operations. Phony rescue organizations that are a front for these puppy mills and backyard breeders are becoming more and more common. I think the biggest thing to think of there is easier is not better. And whatever situation, this last slide, I mean, you cannot take the genetics out of a breed. Whether you have a mixed breed dog or a purebred dog, I think that's the A1 top #1 thing you can do is research your breed and see what they may need to be happy, what difficulties you may have with their health. So things like that.
Hey, Bobby, could you maybe explain what a puppy mill is? I don't know if everyone in here knows what that is yet. We haven't talked about it.
Absolutely. Being in the Midwest, puppy mills for dog breeding are fairly common, especially a little bit south of us. It's essentially someplace that mass produces puppies for sales, especially in pet stores, which is why pet stores have really been cracked down for a long time, that completely abuse their dogs. They have dogs more like mistreated livestock. They're kept in very small confined spaces. They don't go by any breeding regulations that are out there for time in between litters, for caring for the puppies. A lot of the puppies go into the market without the proper amount of time with a parent, without the proper amount of time with their litter mates, and definitely without the nutrition that they need. So it's really a terrible situation, and these puppy mills can have thousands of dogs on site, and nobody knows. They hide it well.
Yeah, if any of you guys are ever like in an English class or need to give a speech on a topic, there's a lot of very sad but fascinating at the same time information about puppy mills out on the internet, and it's a big issue. And like I didn't really know what it was until I had done a research project in high school on it, but it's very scary and very sad. So especially here in the Midwest, like Bobby said.
Right. It's really surprising how they continue. It's a little bit sad in dog circles. People who are good breeders really don't want a lot of legislation controlling how they breed dogs, but a lot of the legislation that's trying to be pushed through out there is aimed at puppy mill breeders, and they're trying to get a better handle on it. But the biggest and most important thing is, as consumers, and if you potentially go into the veterinary care in any kind of animal type of job, really be on the lookout and encourage your clients to be on the lookout for scams like this.
I really like this last slide that I'm going to have to use that diagram like in my classes, like even not just for dogs, but just for livestock too. Like that's so true.
I do feel like a lot of these things have a lot of association with general breeding. I hate to say it, but would we breed you? I think you just had a quiz on breeds of cattle.
Yep.
Possibly. Would we breed cattle just for a pretty head? Like it's really a question in breeding communities, and this is another reason why some of these AKC events like conformation are so important for breeders to at least be well versed in, because breeding a dog for hypoallergenic purposes, for a cute face, I know just the concept of a puggle for a pug and a beagle put together, just that concept of breeding a puggle for people that I know that are really well versed in breeding, it's a horrible thing to think about, because if we can go back to the nose structure issue, if you think about the facial features of a pug versus the facial features of a beagle, that construction is completely different, and they have a completely different sinus system. And when you try to mesh those together, sometimes you can get some really, really bad breeding mixes in there, and it might be cute, but cute is not a sound reason for breeding. I feel like I ran through a lot of this really fast. Are there any questions? Anything that wasn't really clear that I went through too fast?
I have one question. So I know like some of the people here who are taking that test, I'm sure would want to ask this too, but there's a lot of people in here that want to do something with animal science or veterinary medicine, either for large or small animals. So what are some pieces of advice that you would have for these students as they potentially consider careers in this area?
Oh, absolutely. I think as someone who is in the dog fancy, who I'm very active in the dog world, but I'm personally a graphic designer. I do not have an animal science a degree. I don't have a job involving any kind of animals. I think a lot of us that are in this situation where it's just a passion and a hobby, we really want to be able to discuss issues with our vets. We really want to be able to know that we're all thinking around the entire issue, the entire care of our animals. I know one thing that's kind of gotten me in the last few years is my older Vizsla tonic. The breeder has suggested that maybe we might want to breed him in the future. I mean, pending an OFC evaluation and some genetic testing just to make sure everything is solid. And knowing that I'm not going to be fixing him anytime soon, my breeder and I have kind of created a plan on deciding what to do, when, what to look out for, and really educated ourselves more in the concerns that we might have, or the things that people say, oh, fix that dog, he's aggressive, aren't really true. There are a lot of fallacies that say, if you fix a dog right away, all of your problems will be solved. And that's not really true. That's definitely not true. And I know, especially from my first golden retriever, or my second golden retriever, Kelsey, it can cause so many more problems when you fix a dog at the earliest possible moment and those growth plates in their bone structure aren't closed, and they require a lot of those hormones that maturity can only help close that and make sure that structure is solid.
Does anyone else have any questions for Bobby?
When you talk about like a dog having trouble.
Do you want to come up here maybe? Because I don't know if she can hear you.
Thank you.
So what can you repeat that? Oh, Lauren was asking, when you talk about a dog being troubled, what do you mean by that?
I think that can be a lot of different things. With the golden retrievers that I had gotten from Ragam, as I said about Kelsey, we had some physical issues. When you don't raise a puppy, when you get a dog at a year or more old, there can be some ingrained habits that really make it a challenge. Between Kelsey and Sammy, they were both in situations where they weren't socialized well as puppies. They didn't have a lot of time with other dogs or children. So emotionally and mentally, they had some issues, and I had to do a lot of extra training work around adding in that socialization piece that they should have gotten as puppies. Another problem that when you get a puppy that hasn't been with its mom or its siblings for that full 8 weeks, you can really have some developmental issues where they don't quite understand things like bite response. If you get a puppy that's extra bitey, that really has some mouthing issues, sometimes that can definitely be caused by not having enough time with its litter mates, so that they get that dog to dog response of, oh, this brother or sister bit me, I'm gonna scream my head off and tell them that that's not okay, or mom dog is going to intervene and pull you away from that situation and put you in a puppy timeout. Things like that are issues that breeders understand fully and want to make sure that their puppies get a full puppyhood, a full puppy childhood experience in. And people who don't really know what's going on, what they should do, what's needed, and what's necessary for this type of development, they sometimes lack. And in that, the owner of this dog might be dealing with troubles from things like this through life.
Does that answer your question, Lauren? Awesome. She said, yeah.
Oh, good.
Any other questions for Bobby? Doesn't look like they have any additional questions, but
All right.
we really appreciated you sharing with us, and I'll definitely be reaching out. I think that this was awesome, and I'd love to have you back again. Like I don't teach this class every year, but like my intro to A class does a lot with genetics, and my other animal science class does as well. So I learned a lot from this. This was awesome. And I think the students did as well, it looks like. So we really appreciate it. Let's give her a round of applause. Virtual.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I gave you a little bit of insight on what I've learned from my dog experiences. And honestly, even if some people disagree with what I've said, I'm just hoping that we'll all have a better concept about thinking about these issues and be better able to make educated decisions instead of just conforming to myths and popular belief.
Right on. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks
all.
again. And just to confirm, you're okay if I post this on like my YouTube channel so kids can watch this?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you too. Have a good rest of
Yep.
the day. Happy Friday.
Yes. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.